the Toronto for everyone concept. Where did it come from, and how did you manage to implement so many different announcements and parts of your platform into that same concept?
Even before deciding to run, I started going all over the city. And actually that's how I continue. My campaign is simple, is walking the city, listening, learning, sharing. And when I ask people, what do you think of Toronto? It was everybody that was telling me, oh, it's good, but for someone else. I would ask the young people, they say, oh, it's good, but for the boomers. I ask the boomers, oh, it's good, but for the young. I always ask the people in the downtown, it's good for the suburbs. In the suburbs, it's good for the downtowns.
Parks, walking communities, public space, a lot of what you've based your career on to this point as well. What makes you think that that resonates with everyone in the city enough to get their vote?
An ideal city is where people will be able to walk safely on the sidewalks, on the crosswalks. They will go to the parks and that they are open and that they work there. They don't have washroom closed for 8 months of the year. That they're going to take the subway and the escalators are working, and if they are not working, there is someone helping people go up with their packages or walkers or whatever. So I think that's why it resonates. I think that public space infrastructure creates culture.
A lot of it is very idealistic. A lot of change, though, is being proposed. We know that there's a budget crunch in this city. How do you pay for all the change that you're talking about?
Well, first, everything that I have spoken is doable, and is doable in one term. I have not said any pie in the sky, nothing. Almost everything is relative low cost. For example, but the problem is that with Tory, after these 8 years, we have set the bar so low that people think things cannot happen. For example, you go to the parks. In June, the mayor said half of the water fountains were not working in June, half. They were gonna open in July. If instead of opening them in June and July, we do it in April or May, the cost is exactly the same. The city is poorly managed. So I don't think it's an issue of money.
That said, when we do talk about the city's budget, we are reaching a point where a deficit almost $1 billion in the city. How do you close that gap? And is it a matter of raising taxes, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's a matter of evaluating. I'm a manager. I have better preparation than John Tory to be mayor. I'm going to do a zero budget. What is the zero budget? Is to start from scratch, and everything has to be justified. And we need to evaluate everything. So I think we're going to have a lot of savings. Also, we might need to move some things. For example, when Mayor Tory says, oh, everybody needs to do a budget with 1% increase. When you have everybody at 1%, it's because you don't have any priorities. On the other hand, the province has announced that they have over $2.5 billion surplus. The federals have over $10 billion surplus. Well, the 3 million people that live in Toronto are not only Torontonians, we're also Ontarians and we're also Canadians. So we need to go to the province and we need to go to the federals and ask them to help us cover that deficit. Tory has behaving much more like a cheerleader or Ford than the mayor of Toronto. I'm going to be the mayor of Toronto. And of course, I'm going to be able to work very well because also there are a lot of things that are in common. For example, Ford created a committee, an advisory committee to provide ideas on housing. They recommended that 80% of the land in Toronto is single-family housing. That committee said, let's eliminate single-family housing and allow to subdivide. That is one of the key elements of my housing policy.
You've criticized the mayor for not getting any shovels into the ground over the last 8 years. How can you guarantee what you're proposing at this point is going to make things faster and can get things done?
We should not pay attention to what John Tory is doing, he's going to say. He's been mayor for 8 years. So let's evaluate him on what he has done or not done in 8 years. I have 3 buckets. First bucket, renovation revolution. Citywide, anybody will be able to subdivide. So all the owners are going to benefit. Who's going to do those renovations? Small contractors and medium-sized contractors. So thousands and thousands of jobs. Who's going to benefit? The people that are renting, that now are going to have possibilities to rent units all over the city. Second bucket, as of right, all of the arterials where there is public transit, people are going to be able to build. As of, what is the height? The width of the road. And the third is, wherever the city owns the land, we are going to do 100% affordable or deep affordable.
So you've got lots of people in this city, as you know, that don't necessarily like the idea of people developing in their backyard, in their neighborhood, and changing the face of their community.
I'm going to be honest and transparent, and I'm going to have a plan. And I think that most of the NIMBYs, what they hate is the uncertainty. That all of a sudden they say, oh, this is a neighborhood of houses, and then they say, oh, it's approved 8 stories or 10 stories or 6 stories. No, I'm gonna say, whatever we have houses, it's gonna be only 3 or 4 stories, not more, not 1 floor more, 0.
It's one thing to say you'll be able to do these things. It's another thing to be able to do so on the council floor. Is this a time where you invoke some of those strong mayor powers that we're talking about from the province?
Mark, the strong mayoral powers is a distraction. Tory and Ford realized that he had done nothing in the last 8 years. There is not one significant project that has been done. Affordable housing has been a huge failure, and this is a distraction. By the way, if they wanted to change the mayoral powers, they could have done it 4 years ago, or 3 or 2.
One of the more recent polls from Forum has put you at 20%, the mayor at over 50%. At this point, with just days to go before Election Day, what makes you think that people will change their minds and vote for you?
Because it's not too late. We're talking about our daily quality of life. Also, that poll was done 10 days ago, so we don't really know what is the trends now. I said, if you put all of your life savings into a restaurant and you need to hire a chef, do you hire a chef that seems like a nice person, or do you hire a chef that knows how to cook? I think that I am a chef that I know what are the ingredients to create a city for everyone.